So, welcome everybody to our Finding Our Way session. Today it's Sunday, and I am in Spain. My name is Lee, and I'm coming from a little town. It's not actually such a little town, but a small city right outside Barcelona. And we've obviously, everybody in the world knows there's been a lot of things going on with an epidemic in our midst, and I think a lot of people are reacting to it in all kinds of ways. So Robin, my colleague, who's over there, switch to Robin.
I'm
She,
Robin. Yeah.
please introduce yourself,
Yes,
Robin.
I'm Robin. I'm living in small town Canada where obviously heightened awareness of what's going on around the world, especially in Europe, where like Lee's obviously in lockdown in Spain at the moment, as other countries are happening as well. And watching it unfold not so closely here, to be honest. Obviously, in my current work situation, we're looking at daily what we're doing and how we're going to deal with this pandemic as it comes through our small town. But at the moment, not living it as really as Lee is in Spain.
And I think I just have kind of a feeling of a lot of empathy for people around the world at the moment. I'm um, usually quite a grounded person, and it's been very interesting to see a lot of people, their reaction here in Spain. Things have changed really radically in the last 72 hours. I would say there's been radical changes, whereas people are usually quite easygoing. People have become a little bit more concerned. There's a little bit of angst around. People are trying to keep up their morale, but yesterday the lockdown officially started, and it's happening in many places in the world. So I think my main wish for this session is to be able to try and be as supportive as possible to anybody who feels like they're experiencing some angst. Things can be very real when it's happening around you, and I think that people can have the tendency to go to extremes of either being unconcerned or overly concerned. So just to find our inner center and our balance during this time, to be able to be that groundedness and to be able to be um, whole within ourselves, so that we can try and stay as calm and as mindful in these times as possible, and give ourselves the best opportunity mentally and physically to be able to ride out this wave and to be able to support each other. I think as women specifically, the reason we started Finding Our Way is really also to support women in whatever kind of chaos they are experiencing. And women are usually very sensitive and take on a lot of what is going on around them, whether they are carers for family or friends or children or care workers. There's a lot of women usually have that, can often have a sort of motherly instinct to protect and to nurture and to nourish. So I think women obviously often take things as quite a burden on themselves. So to be able to feel very calm during this time, and not to be too overexert in this time, but to really to take care of oneself so that you are nourished in order to nourish others. And this is what we always say in our Finding Our Way programs, is that we need to be able to, our batteries need to be full so that we can nourish others, and we can't cheat with that. If you don't have energy to do something, you don't have it. So we really need to be very, I guess a word that's been ringing true for us is quite self-disciplined, to be able to take care of yourself on all kinds of levels, mentally, physically, and I think also spiritually in this case, to really nourish yourself very deeply, to take sustenance from whatever sustains you. And I'm going to ask Robin what she thinks about that.
No, I think well, for me, it feels like I was talking to Lee before that the focus of Finding Our Way has been very much about supporting women change makers, so people who are on the front line doing some pretty amazing things in this world to really care for themselves. And I feel that with COVID-19 at the moment, we're kind of all change makers at the moment. We're all on the front line. We're all kind of dealing with a changing environment in the moment, and all the time. So for us, and for what I want to kind of share today, is some real tips and ideas and support again of ways that you can stay mindful and compassionate to self, but compassionate to everyone else. Because at this time, like that's what I'm very much feeling here in Canada, is that yes, we are maybe low risk, And yes, maybe we live in an amazing environment where we can self-isolate or self-distance pretty easily, because there's not many of us here and amazing mountains for us to go get into. But this is our time to actually start thinking of others and not just think of ourselves. So thinking about the impact that my decisions have on other people around me. So I think that's really important for us right now, is looking after ourselves personally, our families, but also thinking of the greater community and the impact of our decisions and our actions on others as well.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. And I think that there's all kinds of very what we wanted to share today is not only things on how to stay calm and mindful within yourself, but also in your actions. We've been running a program for a while called Mindfulness in Action, and it's really connected to this almost hyper, I think in this case especially, this kind of hyper alertness of what we do with every moment that we are alive as human beings, what we're doing, to be really conscious of our actions from moment to moment as much as we can, and to pay attention very closely to what's happening in our minds, but also what we are doing physically. So something just very real and practical, coming from a bigger city than Robin is in at the moment, where you're in a place of public transport or in a place of public gatherings. Spain is a very social kind of country, so people like to share, they like to embrace, there's a lot of human connection, there's a lot of interaction, there's a lot of affection between each other, and I think it must be, I'm not Spanish, but I can see that people hesitate in how they have to be with each other, how they have to behave with each other, because they're getting all of this information on one end of what they need to do, what they can't do. They're being told what they can't do. So I'm sure there's even a lot of feelings of rebelliousness in a sense, that you want to behave as you want to. But people are needing to be very self-disciplined in this way. So just small mindful things, this is an excellent opportunity to practice real mindfulness when you're going into public spaces. There's washing your hands and keeping your hands clean, but also being mindful of what you're doing, what you're touching when you're going to places, when you're opening doors, when you're opening when you're using a card machine, when you're making payments for things like that, when you're using your phone, all these kinds of things that we're handling with our hands. We're such tactile beings. Since babies, we've been touching everything around us. So it's in our DNA, it's in our beings to touch all the time. And this is what we're doing. So just to become really hyper aware and alert, and really take it as a practice, just to see, okay, my instinct is to do this, but let me just take a moment and think, what am I doing? So if you are holding a handrail when you're using public transport, or opening a door, or going into a store or something, just to be really mindful of then washing your hands again, or using hand sanitizer or whatever you're doing, and going home. Also, just this kind of real practice in absolute awareness of every small action that we're taking, how everything is so interdependent. And I think that's, you can almost play a game with yourself in a sense, and catch yourself for how mindful you are, how many times you're paying attention. These small things, small incremental things that can actually really impact one's health and well-being, and in this case very much so one's health.
And one thing I've noticed, as I was saying before, one thing I've noticed and never noticed before is how much I touch my face. I've never consciously been aware of that, but then it's that mindful action, right, of something is brought to your attention and then you become aware. And it's not that I berate myself when I do it. It's like, oh, look, there we go again. And there's an impact now, potentially more than there ever has been, of that small action. And so it is. It's not around being panicked in that, or as I always say, picking up that stick and beating yourself up or anything. It's just being more aware and using this time of the COVID-19 pandemic to actually practice mindfulness in all our times. And I think it's a tool we talk about a lot, but now it's time to actually start enacting it and using it.
Exactly, I totally agree with you, Robin. And I think that this is something that we've spoken about a lot in the past, is being really present, being really, really present, so we can really pay attention that we're not doing things unconsciously or mindlessly. So, just bringing it back. It's almost a little test for yourself of checking the strength of your mindfulness practice. And then if you do forget to do something, then don't berate yourself, but encourage yourself, remind yourself to remember next time, and perhaps gently to remind others to do that too, because we do often live in an unconscious society. We only realize how dependent and interdependent everything is when there is more struggle or more suffering, when people around us are sick, or when people around us are going through hardship. So this makes it very acutely present in one's mind. But we can really notice how everything depends on each other, how we need each other for human connection, how we need each other to feel good, to be inspired, to be encouraged as human beings. So we don't notice, even the things we're getting, how the food is being made at the moment, where is it being produced, who's producing this. Maybe that person can't go to work anymore, they've got to take care of someone sick. Coming back to what Robin was saying, really understanding what others are going through at the moment, because it's very easy to become very insular in your own environment. And this is a perfect opportunity to really open our hearts and practice more compassion and real empathy for others at this point.
So what ideas do you have, Lee, at the moment, or some thoughts that you want to share about how we can be being mindful at the moment? What are some, or looking after ourselves at the moment?
I think at the moment for us, for all of us, especially women who are naturally the carers, perhaps if people are in lockdown, in an extreme case, Robin, you're not in any kind of lockdown situation, but I think if there's anyone who's taking care of parents or family, family members or friends or whatever at the moment, or just having to stay at home, really taking care of our mental well-being a lot during this time. So really taking sustenance from things that support us. If you've always wanted to spend an hour doing yoga instead of half an hour, take that hour for yourself right now. You have the time and the opportunity to be able to do that. And think of it as we're preparing for a marathon. So we need to sustain ourselves. We need to be taking care of ourselves. We need to be perhaps making clearer schedules for ourselves on a daily basis of taking an extra half an hour for oneself, especially now when maybe there's a lot more mental pressure and emotional expectation from others on us at the moment. So we need to be resilient and strong, but we can't do that running on empty. So whatever we need to do, if we need to meditate a little bit more, take that time and opportunity to be able to do that. Or if we need to spend a few more moments with ourselves in the shower or in the bath, take that, and without the sense of guilt that you are taking away, but really thinking of it as filling yourself so that you can be there for others and not take additional strain that you don't need to be taking at the moment. I think those are very simple things that we can do. Also really taking care of our health in a good way, so making sure that we have enough vitamins or minerals or any kind of sustenance that we need physically through food or through medicine, to be able to make yourself strong and resilient, and to be mindful of what we're doing also. So even if you can have a bit of a detox at the moment for yourself, if you've always wanted to eat a little bit more healthy, maybe this is a perfect opportunity to do that with the stocks that have been sitting in your cupboard that you've bought, all the power foods and the things. Wherever we are in the world, we'll have different disciplines and different habits, but really taking this is a very, on the good side of this almost tragic situation, there's also a lot of good that can come out of this. So this can be a real opportunity to get to know yourself better, to be able to understand how you function and what you're made of in this situation. So it can actually be something that can be very, very powerful, I think.
I think it's an important reframe there, because it's one thing we're talking about as well. I've talked with a few people, is this whole idea of, rather than viewing this quarantine or this going inwards, and it's this outward pressure that you have no control over, which for a lot of people it is. The lockdowns just happened overnight and people all of a sudden have felt they've lost their control in that process. But it's actually taking that reframe and saying, okay, so within this, what do I have control over, and how am I going to make the most of this? So, okay, so maybe I do have to stay home now and I have to work, or I can't go out and go to my exercise classes that I used to go to, or my the bar to talk to people. But there's different ways that you can get that now. So it's around, okay, so what can I be doing? Is there online yoga that I can be doing rather than going to a yoga class? Is it something that I've always wanted to do, is do some drawing, and can I make time for doing that now? There is this kind of reframe of what is in my control, and how am I going to look after myself within that. And I think that we've talked about retreat. Like I feel it's like a creative time, in effect. Like if I can't go out, then what am I going to sit at home doing and create, rather than viewing it as a prison sentence? Think of it as a retreat. In the same kind of concept. You now have this time to create as you want to do. And there's a few other things for me as well that I think is important, that like here we are, like Lee's in Spain and I'm in Canada, and maybe she can't leave, but I can. But yet here we are connecting. And so I think there's still ways that we can connect. We're quite fortunate now in the world that we live in, that connection can be done very easily, and we don't have to go and see each other at the coffee shop or at the bar. We can do it online. So I think at this time we need to also be thinking about ourselves and how we're connecting to others, and within your community as well. I loved the thing that I seen in Italy, that everyone's out on their balconies singing songs to each other. That just makes my heart sing. So that they're in their own space, but they're still connecting in different ways. So I think that's an important time, that we don't feel isolated right now, and it's ways that we can look for connection as well.
Definitely. I think last night I didn't really know what was happening, because I don't know the culture well enough here yet. And we've been getting a lot of news, but most of it has been in Spanish, and my Spanish is very poor. So we've been having to look at what people are doing, kind of silently. And last night people broke into spontaneous applause, and we didn't know. We knew something was going on, but we didn't really understand what was going on. Obviously, people were doing it from their windows, and it was, today we found out that it was as thanks and appreciation for all of the medical staff and all of the medical workers and the nurses who've been working so tirelessly already in 1 week. People have been working exceptionally hard. They're being really tested and taking quite a lot of strain, because it's something so unfamiliar and unknown to them. So to show that kind of appreciation for these invisible givers, for these invisible helpers and carers that we might not even know who they are at all, to appreciate what they're doing. So I think that that's something very powerful, that one can acknowledge that and remember, put yourself in the position of others. Something else I also thought of, which is a little bit different, but during this time when we've got this time to create, or to spend more time to do more self-care or more self-reflection, a lot of self-reflection, we can really take time to journal and to write about our feelings. If we're feeling frustrated, if we're feeling sad, or if we think it's silly, or if we think the world's overreacting, whatever emotions we're going through, to try and channel that in a very positive way. So whether that's through writing, or doing something creative, making some art, or drawing something, or cooking something interesting. Here's your opportunity to practice a nice recipe, that maybe your granny's old recipe that you haven't tried, or something fun. And also to take time, we're connecting so much online, but also physically, to write some letters, to really take a chance to, this old-fashioned way of writing letters to people. And I mean, that would be really wonderful to share that with some of those people, even if you can't give it to them physically right now. But just to remember that you're thinking about them, about those individuals who might be going through different circumstances, even if they're in a safe place, but mentally they're struggling. And for oneself, I think it's very cathartic to write and to express oneself. So whatever works for you, take a moment to become really aware of what can support you in this time.
One thing we talk about a lot in Finding Our Way is the balance. I think there's always, we've got to find that balance. I think this is now the time to really fine-tune that. So it is that time for connection and supporting others, but it's also that time to go internal, as you're saying, and maybe sit with those feelings and realize what you're feeling. So it's like the time for silence and reflection, but maybe the time for connection as well. And I think there's also around the kind of the severity of this, and realizing that the impact of all our decisions of having, but also kind of holding it lightly so we don't feel bogged down with this. I think always we get this balance is really important, and now we've really got to fine tune that so that we don't go down the dark hole, that we can see the lightness of that this is a time for retreat, but that would, also there's a severe thing and I can't just be going out and infecting others or impacting others. So really, I think there's a mindfulness in action there as well as everything we're doing, maybe looking at the other side of it. And so, maybe we aren't suffering, but maybe someone else is. So how are we supporting them? And again, always that balance, that yin and yang that we are trying to find in our moment, every moment to moment, really.
Absolutely, and I feel that this is a wonderful opportunity. This word gets used quite a lot, and it shouldn't lose its power. But that real feeling of gratitude for what we have, of gratitude if we are healthy and we are well right now, to really appreciate that. If we have good opportunities, if we have enough money to buy enough food, or if we have enough money to have medical care, what a privilege that is. And really to appreciate that very, very deeply, and to have that the gratitude, really to understand that this isn't something that's a given for everybody, that to really to be humble within that, to understand that many people are experiencing many different things, all kinds of tragedies in the world at the same time, and being hit by this, which is almost unthinkable for some people. So really appreciating your good fortune if you are healthy and you are well, and wishing that for others, I think very strongly. It's very important to remember them and keep them in our thoughts and in our prayers. I think that we can do a lot by just sending out really positive thoughts and positive wishes for others, even that kind of intention, we're all connected, and to strengthen that with each other.
Is there anything else that comes to mind that you want to share? I mean, one thing that's very real for me here, and I said I'm living in a very different environment from a lot of people. I'm not living in a city, but I know that for me, so distancing and isolation doesn't have to be inside all the time. Like, I do actually have an amazing outside world where I can not see another person if I wanted to go for an hour hike. So for me, a big part of this, if and when it comes to looking after myself here and not infecting others, is actually getting outside, and it's getting that fuel that I need for myself, but in a way that doesn't harm others. So I realize that in a city that's a lot harder to do, that maybe it's the time of day you've got to do it, or you've got to go on your bike further afield to get away from people, or whatever that looks like. But I think, again, it's that balance of not realizing that being in isolation has to be always this feeling of prison inside, that actually sometimes the outside can still be fueling you and helping you, if you're not going to harm others in that process. But is there anything else that comes to you, Lee, that you want to share for people to be looking after themselves at this time?
I think also, don't forget simple daily things, that we don't have to be doing anything particularly special during this time to take care of ourselves. If there's something, if there's particular music that you like, or that brings you joy, that brings you, lifts the mood, I think that these kinds of, even small simple things that we forget about, to try and charge our energy as much as we can during this time, so that we can be there for others when they're feeling low. You can support them in whatever way, even if that's giving them an online call, or sending them a little text, or sending them a message. Not underestimating that, and trying to really keep a positive mind state, at the same time reflecting on the real fragility of life, and that it's time to prioritize on things that are really important, because we don't know, even under any circumstances, we never know when our time is up. So to take that really each moment as something very precious, and to be able to remind others also to not sweat the small stuff right now, to pay attention to what is really important, and to make sure that you are maintained mentally, physically, and spiritually, or whatever way that you need to take care of yourself, to do that, because by you being strong, you are being strong for others too.
Absolutely. And one thing that for us at Finding Our Way, so Lee and myself, we very much want to be here to support you. So if there's something that you feel that you need right now, like one thing we're going to hopefully do in the next few days is sharing some more meditations and sharing some more yoga nidra. But if there's anything that you feel that right now there's a need, please call, let us know. Again, come and let us know, and we'll be here to support you, because this is the time where we all need to be out looking after each other.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's exactly what we need to be doing right now, is looking after each other, looking after ourselves, looking after each other. It's a circle. We are connected. So let's be there for each other. This is a perfect opportunity to share your big heart and your big love.
So take care, everyone. Look after yourself. Be safe. Be mindful. And yeah, please let us know if there's anything we can be doing to help you.
Take it easy, be gentle with yourself.
Till next time.